Good morning. First of all, I want to welcome all of the writers who are in attendance today. This morning we're here actually to celebrate your accomplishments. And to the 8th graders who are watching our live stream down at HCC, and to all of those of you at home who have been able to join us, welcome. Thank you so much for coming in and seeing this morning's ceremony. I'd also like to welcome Dr. Kaltenecker, Ms. Lappel, Mr. Ancona, who are all in attendance here this morning in celebration of the power of storytelling. My name is Dwayne Smith, and I chair the English department here at Byram Hills High School, and I am so grateful to have had the opportunity to partner with Written Out Loud last year and bring this pilot program to the students that are here in front of us. When we look back at the last 18 months, we undoubtedly will see the fear and the uncertainty that has accompanied all of our individual stories. Teachers have been forced to change the nature of instruction, and students have had to manage unfamiliar academic and social challenges. And that's really where this all began. I am so thankful for the support of the Byram Hills Education Foundation, without whom our partnership with Josh Sheloff and Written Out Loud would not have been possible. Through their generosity and vision, we were able to introduce this pilot program last spring, giving the students that you see in front of you the opportunity to craft original stories in collaborative teams. And I'm pleased to announce that moving forward, this program will continue to exist as part of the 8th grade curriculum. I am also thankful for the tireless efforts of Janine Capello and Melinda Fuller. Not only did they believe in the power of storytelling, but they so desperately wanted to bring some joy to each of you during difficult times. Their efforts were born out of compassion, and I'm humbled by the work that they do day in and day out on behalf of their students. Lastly, I want to thank each and every one of our young authors in attendance this morning. You took a risk last year, and you joined our friends at Written Out Loud on an amazing storytelling journey. And this morning, we're here to commemorate that journey by distributing hard copies of the books that you wrote. One of these books, one copy, will actually remain in the HCC library so that others can enjoy the storytelling that you participated in. I'm amazed by what you were able to produce, and I know that this experience will be a lasting example of what can be accomplished. Under the most trying of circumstances, you prevailed, and we're here to celebrate that. I received an email last week from Miss Maria Montalbano, a dear friend, a colleague, and a bibliophile. You likely know her as one of our high school science teachers, and she asked me to share the following quote by Carl Sagan with each of you. It originally appeared in a book called Cosmos, The Persistence of Memory, and here it is. What an astonishing thing a book is. It's a flat object made from a tree with flexible parts on which are imprinted lots of funny dark squiggles. But one glance at it, and you're inside the mind of another person, maybe somebody dead for thousands of years. Across the millennia, an author is speaking clearly and silently inside your head, directly to you. Writing is perhaps the greatest of human inventions, binding together people who never knew each other, citizens of distant epochs. Books break the shackles of time. A book is proof that humans are capable of working magic. Thank you to Maria for sharing this magical quote with me. And lastly, I want to thank Mr. Brian Melso from the Byram Hills Media Center and Pete Pollux, our Director of Fine Arts, who have graciously given up lots of time and effort to make our live stream possible this morning. I really appreciate that work. So at this time, I want to call up our special guest, Josh Sheloff from Written Out Loud, and thank you again, and enjoy the celebration.
Thank you so much, Dwayne, and thank you all so much for being here, and thank you to everyone who is watching, no matter where you are. Shocker, I'm going to start by telling a story. I grew up very close to here. I'm from Scarsdale. So as shocking as it may be to hear, I was once 14 years old and in 9th grade as well. And when I was your age, I was a creative kid who felt deep down like I didn't have a creative place to play. And I didn't even really know that at the time. I think what I knew was that I was playing sports because that's where the friends were. That's where the carpools went. That was where all of the sort of social gravity flowed, was towards the athletic fields. That's where the parents stood on the sidelines, and that's where you got trophies and pizza and Coke at the end of the game. It was the structure of all of the weekends. And so I played baseball, and I was fine with it. But deep down, what did I love? Who was I? I loved Star Wars. When I was 6 years old, the first Star Wars, and for you fellow geeks out there, you know that the first Star Wars was the fourth Star Wars that came out in theaters. It blew my mind into a million pieces. It was who I was without, in any way, me needing to contrive myself onto it. It was the thing that I loved most in the world. It was the thing that I talked about with my friends the most. But there was no such thing as like a Star Wars team. That wasn't a thing. And so I went through high school basically spending my time doing activities that I was fine with, but who didn't feel like who I was. And it wasn't until I got to college that I really met my kindred spirits. And suddenly, like everywhere around me, I went to Yale, which is a super, super creative, arts-forward place, and suddenly I felt like copies of myself were everywhere. And people were doing theater, and people were doing a cappella singing groups, and that's where the social gravity was. And it wasn't until I was 18, 19, 20, 21 years old that I felt like I could join the kinds of teams that felt like a reflection of who I was. And so at that point, I decided I want to be someone who's in this world. I want to do that with my life. And so I threw myself into the world of making movies. After watching Star Wars, I became a junkie for all 80s and 90s movies. I don't know if you guys are fans of Quentin Tarantino, the director who's around right now. There we go, there's a fan. But I absolutely idolized Quentin Tarantino, and I started writing screenplays, which is the sort of paper basis of movies. And I spent my 20s beginning with a certain kind of passion, but watching it sort of die out year after year because no one was reading what I wanted to say. And so I would send my screenplays everywhere, and nobody would really do anything about them, and I got frustrated, and I blamed everyone else, and I just kept on writing, and then 25 turned to 28, turned to 30, and then I got married, and I had a child, and suddenly I began to realize that my dream was not going to come true, and that I was not going to be the kind of person who was like my idols. And so I reached this moment of real crisis, and then this funny thing happened. I was 32, and I had a young child, 6 months old, and I was living in Park Slope, Brooklyn. And a friend of mine called me up and said, I want you to write another screenplay. And I said, look, I think I'm retiring. I'm going to go get a job at an advertising agency or something. I think I'm no good at it. He said, that's fine. You can do that after you write this one more screenplay. Because I've got a friend, and she's actually really kind of connected in Hollywood, and if you write her a screenplay, I think some important people in Hollywood are going to read it. And I said, oh, no, I've heard that before. I've been blasting away at this for like 10 years. He said, just do it. I said, okay, I'll write one last screenplay. The problem was, I had no time. I had a little baby. I had a day job because I had to make ends meet. I was trying to pay the rent. And I literally didn't have the precious time necessary to write the screenplay, even though I had promised my friend that I would write it. And so here's what I did. Totally out of necessity, I would wake up an hour earlier at 5 a.m. before my baby, which is something. I would take my baby and put the baby in one of those, you ever see one of those baby backpacks, right? So you see them in the park all the time, like young dads and young moms with like a baby in the backpack. So it's 5 a.m., it's still dark out. And so I got my baby in the backpack, and in my right hand, I've got my dog on a leash. And so I would walk to Prospect Park, which is a beautiful park in the middle of Park Slope, Brooklyn. It's just like a mini version of Central Park. And in my left hand, I had the key to the rest of my life. It was a tape recorder. Now, you've probably never even seen a tape recorder because you've all been working with phones, but this is before the internet. This is 2002. Oh, the internet existed, but nobody had smartphones. That wasn't even a thing. And so what I did, dog in one hand, baby on the backpack, tape recorder in my left hand, I would walk through Prospect Park and I dictated the story of the next screenplay that I had promised to write. And this process of actually saying the story out loud marked the turning point in my life. Unconsciously, I didn't even sort of make this as a conscious decision. I almost treated it like a performance. So it was a story that was set in England around a bunch of soccer hooligans, like the fans who beat each other up like before and after games of like, you know, Manchester United and those like English soccer teams. The fans are insane over there. And so there's a real story in there that I researched and I figured out, and I started making up a story with my voice. And I still literally, you know, making an English accent to play this character and that character and so on, treating it like a performance. Yes, people walked past me in the park and thought that I was insane. No question. But I got into it. And then I would finish the day, I would dictate like 30 minutes or 45 minutes of the story into the tape recorder, press stop, go home, give the baby to my wife, get on the subway, ride to my day job, and while I was on the subway, I would just transcribe the things that I had said out loud. And I did this every day for 3 months. And then the screenplay was done. It was probably the 9th screenplay that I had ever finished. And for the first time, I'm going to make a pun here, I had written something that spoke to people. You can see the pun that I'm making. And suddenly that phrase actually had meaning, because suddenly I didn't have to beg people to read the screenplay anymore. People were passing it to each other and saying, I couldn't put this down. I think this is a real movie. And suddenly, within 6 months, all of the accoutrements of Hollywood that I had been so desperate for started to knock on my door. So an agent called me, and a manager called me, and producers started to call me, and I suddenly became a professional filmmaker. And somebody bought the screenplay, and within a year, they were actually making the movie in London. They cast the kid from the Lord of the Rings movies, Elijah Wood. You may have seen Elijah Wood in a thing or two. You movie geeks out there know Elijah Wood. And my whole life changed. But it didn't change as a result of the money or the agent or the managers. It changed because I started telling my stories out loud. And I was suddenly captivated by the idea that in my now early 30s, I had learned the thing that I wish somebody had taught me back when I was your age. And so deep down, I was like, I've got to start telling kids, when you're at that valuable age of searching for yourselves, the power of telling these stories out loud. There's a magic in it. This craft of telling stories out loud, it connects us to our ancestors. It connects us to our descendants. There is something generous, inclusive, and yes, profoundly magical about that craft of believing in your own voice to the point where you're actually saying it out loud, live to other people. That's at the heart of Written Out Loud. And so, over the next several years, basically I started sort of shaping this craft into a program. I started teaching it to kids. I grew up, my kids got older. I started dragging my kids' friends into like little groups, the kinds of groups that you were in. And I said, okay, I'm not going to assign you a book. I'm not going to assign you a play. I'm not going to assign you a poem or, God forbid, an essay. Let's just talk about the stories you love the most. With me, it was Star Wars and Quentin Tarantino. For you guys, Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, whatever you guys are watching on Netflix, the 19 episodes of Gilmore Girls that you watched over the weekend, that's your curriculum. Why? Because the stories you love are you. And there are people out there who love the stories that you love just as much as you do. They're your kindred spirits. What you did in this program was the first ever school engagement of the Written Out Loud program. I've been basically just sort of making this up as I've gone along, teaching it to a child here and a child there. And then one of the most amazing things that ever happened in my life happened, which is that a woman named Renee Levine, is Renee here by any chance? Renee is basically a part of your school board and school community here in Byram Hills. And Renee said, my niece took your program, and I think that the 8th graders at H.C. Crittenden, across the board, every 8th grader should have the opportunity to tell their stories the way that you teach kids to tell their stories. I said, that sounds amazing. We've never done it with an entire school before. And I said, are you an island? Do you have other people in your community who think that they might be interested? And then Renee introduced me to 3 of the people who are here today, who are 3 of the most amazing people that I've ever come across in my life. So I want to take a moment and thank these 3 amazing teachers. Let's start with Dwayne Smith, Melinda Fuller, and Janine Capello. You will know when you get older that you only get about a handful of teachers who actually really stay with you and remain inside your heart. You are very, very lucky to have found these 3 teachers in your lives. They introduced this program to you, and they are now creating the beginning of a tradition. The first time a community has made this kind of tradition to this practice. I'm so grateful. I can't even begin to tell you how grateful I am. But most of all, of course, I'm the most grateful to you guys. You're the first class ever to have taken our program as a class. You may not even realize just how historic your action was. It was crazy. We were all on Zoom together. It was a nutty time. It was a unique time in all of our lives. But you did it. You showed up. You told your stories out loud. I'm sure it felt awkward sometimes. But you now have the beginnings of a craft that I promise you is going to elevate whatever you do in life. So maybe you'll go into the arts like me. It's a tough road. If you really, really are dedicated to it, there's no stopping you. Talk to me after class, and I'll talk to you about working in show business. It's hard. But here's the thing. Maybe you want to be a social worker. Maybe you want to be an attorney. Maybe you want to be a great teacher, like the teachers who have inspired you and certainly inspired me. This craft of out loud storytelling, of standing up and telling your story out loud, is going to elevate whatever you do in life. It's going to elevate the people around you. Because a critical element of that out loud storytelling isn't just expressing your own voice, it's listening to the other voices and the other needs around you. That's why we do it live. That's why we do it out loud. And that's why the practice of writing in text in a hermetically sealed environment all by ourselves, while it can be joyful, we really, really see it at Written Out Loud as the aftermath of this group out loud storytelling process that we do with each other. You guys created teams of storytellers. And whatever you do in life, being a generous and inclusive and brave member of a storytelling team is going to be a skill that you value for the rest of your lives. Today, you are published authors. So I'm going to give the mic back to Dwayne, and he is going to give you the artifacts that are, I hope, books that you keep forever and give to your kids. There's no reason why not. You should absolutely keep them. And by the way, if you want to order more copies, you can order as many copies as you want for your grandparents and parents and what have you. These books will be in your school library into your old age and beyond. That will be a testament to what you did. I could not be more proud of the work that you did together. And hold on to this craft that you're just beginning to learn. Bring it into your social studies classes, bring it into your science classes, bring it into your jobs and your families. I couldn't be more proud to know you. Thank you so much.
So we're going to call our authors up to receive copies of the books. And just a reminder that the stage is a little bit lower than the carpet there. So just as you step back onto the carpet, watch your step. I don't want anyone to fall. Although books are known to do strange things, and they do have magical powers. That hopefully is not one of them today. I know a number of students are not here today, so we will get those copies to those students at the appropriate time or mail them home if need be. So when I call your name, please come down, and we're going to celebrate your writing. I know, let's see, Tony Afonso is not here, but let's give him a round of applause. Matteo Amacucci. Michael Bellantoni. Jacob Berland is not here. Sarah Bashad. Michael Bordoni. Layla Biles. John Cavada. James Cavaliero. Alex Coutier. Hudson Dean. Amelia Deeks. Ari Jarlinger. Kiki Dyer. Ethan Fowler. Sophia Getz. Olivia Jalaj. Ishan Goyle. Casey Goldstein. Shane Gordon. TJ Guido. Zoe Harris,
Congratulations. Thank you. Awesome.
Noah Klugman,
Congratulations, Noah. You're welcome.
and happy belated birthday to Chloe Cole.
Congratulations.
Anara Lalani,
Congratulations.
Bella Lamberti,
Congratulations. You're welcome.
Owen Lee, Lincoln Lentini,
Congratulations.
Andrew Levy,
Congratulations, Andrew. You're so welcome.
Maya Wisniewski, Cooper Lipton, Christopher Lombardi,
Yay, Christopher. Did it fall? No. Good job. Congrats.
Molly Malter, Andrew Mautner, Evan McCauley, Kaylee McLaughlin, Serena Metch, Chiara Monteforti, Henry Padilla, Jaden Pinsky, Drew Schneider,
Congrats.
Alex Shayagani, Dylan Schulman, Mason Smith,
Congratulations. Yay.
Ashley Stengel, Aaron Stein,
Congratulations, Aaron.
Max Stern, Maya Taub, and Adriana Zavoyak.
Congratulations.
I also want to recognize 4 students who are not enrolled at BHHS, but will be getting their books by mail. That's Noah Beneroff, Joe Berman, Wolfgang Cook, and Noah Sokol. So So all told, we had 53 young authors participating last year. That is over a quarter of the class that took part in the pilot of Written Out Loud. And as Josh said, and as I mentioned earlier in my opening remarks, we are just so thankful that this program will live on and that the work that you guys were part of, this inaugural Written Out Loud component of the 8th grade curriculum, is going to be infused for all students to come. And that is a wonderful thing. Thank you so much. Thank you for all of you who are in attendance today. Thank you to everyone who is watching. Thanks again to the BHEF, and thanks so much to the teachers who made this possible and to Josh and his crew at Written Out Loud. I know Jago couldn't be here, but I want to send thanks to Jago as well. It took me a while, by the way, to figure out Jago and like the whole thing about Jago and his last name being Gordon. I was like, oh, that's Jago. I get it. But I'm so thankful for the time that went into making this happen. You guys, I'm proud of you, and I am so, again, so thankful for everyone's participation in this. Congratulations. There are about 10 minutes remaining in first period, so you are welcome to go back to your mentor classes. And again, thank you so much.